So Vajra Statement 614 makes the point that Mahamudra has the nature of all the good qualities, or Mahamudra is the embodiment of all the good qualities. So Khenpo Kunpal's commentary here, it says, likewise, the ground of the mind stream is empty in essence and is the Buddha nature, which is free from elaborations. It is the Mahamudra of the ground, which spontaneously comprises all qualities, like the sun and its rays. So here, Khenpo Kunpal starts with how, as I talked about yesterday, in the Dakpo Kagyu, meaning Gampopa's Kagyu, in the Dakpo Kagyu tradition of Mahamudra, Mahamudra is not just the result of Buddhahood. Mahamudra can be understood from the level of ground, from the level of path, meaning the process of waking up, and from the level of the actual state of being awakened. So ground is the hidden potentiality of becoming awake. And what is that hidden potentiality? It is, as it says here, the ground of the mind stream, the ground of our being right now, is empty in essence and is the Buddha nature. So last night during Drikung Dharmakirti meeting, I shared with you how to have these two seemingly contradictory aspects together, as expressed in Dogen's saying, impermanence is Buddha nature. So here, empty and yet is Buddha nature. So even Buddha nature doesn't have inherent existence. So our mind stream, meaning this mind that is like a stream, that's why it's called mind stream, right? This mind that is like a stream. So this mind is not a thing. It's not a thing that remains unchanging, but rather mind is momentary. Momentary existence, one after another moment. This mind followed by this mind, followed by this mind, followed by this mind, followed by this mind. Rising, abiding, ceasing, rising, abiding, ceasing, rising, abiding, ceasing. This mind stream. This mind stream is empty in essence, as in empty of any essences, and is the Buddha nature, and therefore free from elaborations. And this is the Mahamudra of the ground. And this empty Buddha nature is Mahamudra of the ground, which naturally, spontaneously, naturally. Sometimes spontaneous, right, has the connotation of like suddenly, right? This was spontaneous, as in it's not premeditated. But whenever you see the word spontaneous used in this kind of material, it's not talking about suddenly. Spontaneous, without premeditation, as they say, spontaneous. This was not premeditated, it was spontaneous. But this is not what spontaneous here means. Spontaneous here means naturally. So, which naturally comprises all the qualities. Just like the sun, by definition, if it is a sun, it has light rays. Light rays is not something separate from the sun. Light rays is not possible if there is no sun. And something isn't the sun if it doesn't naturally have light rays. So this is the meaning here. And this is also Mahamudra of the path, that to a certain degree is freed from obscuration and has become manifest. So then on the level of path, Mahamudra of the path, meaning the process, So Mahamudra as the process of awakening, as the path leading to awakening. Then as we train in the various stages of Mahamudra, more and more of these qualities become manifest. As more and more of the temporary advantageous, that means incidental, that means not innate obscurations, as they are removed, then these qualities become more and more obvious. You become more and more kind, more and more patient, more and more vast, your mind. So these are the qualities now becoming manifest. So then, with the analogy of the sun and the sun rays, like the sun and its rays that to a certain degree are freed from clouds, the qualities of the paths of abandonment and realization are perfected and accomplished. The path of abandonment is talking about abandoning the obscurations, abandoning the causes of suffering, and the path of realization simultaneously. As you abandon those obscurations, as you abandon the 10 non-virtues, then the virtues manifest, the realizations occur. Then, like the sun and its rays that are free from all clouds, that is the Mahamudra of the fruition, which is the Dharmakaya that has the ultimate twofold purity, liberated entirely from the two obscurations. And then when we understand Mahamudra from the perspective of the result, when these two obscurations are completely done with, obscurations, that is the afflictive emotions, and obscurations with regards to the subtle phenomena. So when these two obscurations are entirely purified, done with, finished, then this is the Dharmakaya, this is the Mahamudra of the fruition. So since the qualities have primordially been naturally present, Mahamudra of the ground, path, and fruition has the nature of all these qualities. The nature of Mahamudra, whether on the ground, in the ground context, in the path context, and in the fruition context, they naturally have those Buddha qualities. As it is said in the Tantra, outside this precious mind, there are no Buddhas and there are no sentient beings. Then in the end, when we talk about Mahamudra of the ground, of the path, of the process, and the result, what are we really talking about? We're talking about this precious mind, this wish-fulfilling jewel. So beyond this mind, there are no Buddhas and there are no sentient beings. Why? Because to be confused is fundamentally to be confused in our minds. To be awake, to be Buddhist, fundamentally is a matter of to be awake with regards to the mind. And so then outside of this precious mind, there is neither Buddhas nor sentient beings. And you say, well, what about Buddha Shakyamuni that was walking around, in India 2600 years ago? Isn't that outside? Yes, of course, in that sense, Buddha Shakyamuni was outside. But what perceives Buddha Shakyamuni as outside, or for that matter, or inside, is still the minds of those who were perceiving or not perceiving Shakyamuni. So in that sense, outside of the precious mind, there is neither Buddha nor sentient beings. There is neither nirvana nor samsara. There is neither bondage nor liberation. There is neither cyclic existence or freedom, nirvana. So it is said in the summary, one of the sutras of the perfection of wisdom called summary. The 5 transcendent practices and all the qualities of awakening arise from the transcendent discriminative wisdom. So now quoting the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra that says, of the 6 perfections of bodhisattvas, if you look at it from the linear perspective, so then you begin with the paramita of giving, of generosity. Then you cultivate the paramita of disciplined conduct. Then you cultivate the paramita of perseverance. Then you cultivate the paramita of joyful effort. Then you cultivate the paramita of meditative concentration. Then because of cultivating these 5 paramitas, then you can actualize or realize and cultivate and realize the paramita of wisdom, the perfection of wisdom. So that's looking at it from a linear perspective. However, that's not all of it. Here, it kind of turns things around a little bit by saying the 5 paramitas, transcendent practices, here translated as transcendent practices, the practices of the 5 paramitas and all the qualities of Buddhahood, of awakening, they arise from the paramita of wisdom. So in that sense, you could say, paramita of wisdom gives rise to the other 5 paramitas, the paramita of giving. Because of wisdom, we know the importance of giving and how to give. Because of the perfection of wisdom, we understand disciplined conduct is not a means to an end. Disciplined conduct is the very conduct of Buddhas. Because Buddhas are Buddhas, therefore Buddhas conduct themselves. Therefore Buddhas live their lives in perfect harmony with disciplined conduct. And so disciplined conduct is not just a way to get somewhere. Once you get there, no need, disciplined conduct now become undisciplined. It doesn't mean that, right? Third, patience or perseverance, not giving up. This, because of understanding, because of having perfection of wisdom, because of understanding that all things lack self, so then we don't become agitated so easily. We become more and more stable in patience. Means we can endure because we understand the empty nature of all experiences. Because we understand again the empty nature of experiences, the perfection of wisdom, then because of that, then we can have joyful effort. We don't have joyful effort because we are fixated on our problems. Now, to have joyful effort, to not be fixated on your problems, is not to say you bypass your problems and pretend they are not there. They are there. But you also understand that their nature is delicate. You need to shine some insight into it, then their power over you becomes less. Don't let them have so much power over you. Also, don't underestimate how powerful they can get. But with perfection of wisdom, with real perfection of wisdom, whatever the degree of it, even just a glimpse of it, you can weaken samsara. So last night at Drikung Dharmakirti, I referenced the first teaching of the great Drikung teachings to the assembly, where one of the lines that I feel is so profound, so important, such an important reminder to us, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, if you have only not even a brief moment of doubt with regards to who you are, with regards to, habitually we think we are real, we are solid, we are definite. But if for one moment you have a doubt, you're like, wait, am I really as solid as I think I am? Am I really, is this I that I cherish as real as I think it is? Even having that thought momentarily, you have already weakened the defenses of samsara. You have already, caused little breach of the Great Wall, it's going to start cracking. If you keep going at it, it will crack and crumble. It's so important to remember. And so with regards to us feeling stuck, us feeling like, I can't get out of this mess, I don't feel good, we have to keep reminding ourselves again and again. I get so often, not a lot, but very often I get people reaching out to me when they are already in suffering, when suffering is already all over, when they're already drowning, really, then they reach out to me. Oh, this is going on, this, what can I do? Sometimes, I think the kindest thing I should do is to say, you should have come a lot earlier. Right now, the house is already on fire. It's not very maybe sexy, interesting to come to these lectures about how to prevent house fires. But we're so forgetful, we're always playing with matches. We're always playing with matches and living in a house made of paper. And there's paper everywhere. So if we don't immerse our minds and hearts all the time with how to prevent starting a fire, then when you have started a fire in this paper house with piles and piles of paper around, to hope that somebody can rescue you, it's very hard. It's very hard. So we have to habituate, learning, contemplating, and cultivating the three modes of learning. To listen, to hear, to be immersed in. So for me, I'm quote unquote teaching, right? But every day I get to remind myself. In the effort of sharing with you, I have to remind myself. Oh, this is how you prevent fire from starting. Now, if we just live in fear, right? Oh, I live in a house made of paper. Oh, I live in a house made of paper. Oh, there are piles of paper here. I cannot start a fire. I cannot start a fire. I cannot start a fire. That is also not a solution. But recognizing right now I'm living in a house made of paper, and there are piles and piles of paper around, and I have this disease. I have this habit of liking to play with matches. So we rely on the Dharma to say, hey, can you please control yourself and not play with matches? And then even if you are going to play with matches, can you please remember you're living in a house made of paper and you have piles and piles of paper. The couch that you're sitting on is made from paper. The coffee table you have in front of you also made of paper. Can you just be careful, right? These are reminders, right? But also more important reminder is you're living in a house made of papers and you have this habit of playing with matches. So maybe you should remove some piles of paper. And so you start by removing piles of paper, or at least you organize them better, Then you put a weight on them so that they're not flying all over the place, right? So these are all the ways that we kind of keep things from turning into a big house of fire. But eventually what you have to do is either vacate this house, one way of thinking about it, or solve your addiction problems with playing with matches, or replace your house and build a house that is not built from paper. And so one aspect of what we're doing daily is we are reminding ourselves, hey, you live in a house of paper. You have a problem with addiction, with playing with matches. Then you also have the problem of forgetfulness. One hand. On the other hand is, how do I solve this problem that is more permanent than, oh, don't play with matches, don't play with matches, don't play with matches. I live in a house of paper. I live in a house of paper. You have to do both things, yeah, simultaneously. Then finishing up how the 5 paramitas arises from the 6 paramita, then the paramita of perfection of meditative concentration is a lot easier for the mind to settle when the mind has some understanding about how things are rather than how things merely appear to be. Then we no longer keep asking for things that are impossible. We no longer get so easily distracted. Then we are willing and happily and contented to let the mind settle. And then we can begin to even enjoy and appreciate what it is like to have the mind be settled, for the heart to be settled. Then the peace and the quiet of that. And then the mind naturally enters into deeper and deeper and deeper levels of evenness, of being composed, not being scattered, being composed, being present. Then with that, the perfection of wisdom becomes blaze up like fire, even stronger, burning all the obscurations, burning up all the afflictive emotions, burning up all the mental defilements. So this is 6:14. Then 6:15, if you look at 6:15, it says, oh, wait, 6:14, yes, I have been looking at this. 6:14. So here in Rinchen Changchup's guide, on page 37, if you have the physical book, it says the 14th Vajra statement of chapter 6, Mahamudra is the embodiment or has the quality, has the nature of all the qualities, should be read together with the supplemental verse 41, where it says, it is impossible that activities of a virtuous nature obscure Mahamudra. It is impossible for virtuous activities to obscure, to conflict with the Mahamudra state. 841. It is impossible. The activities of a virtuous nature can obscure Mahamudra. Now, why did some people think, activities of virtue will damage Mahamudra realization? Again, it's because, there are some tantras, there are some Vajra songs by the Mahasiddhas that have that expression. And there's even some advice found in Mahamudra instructions that say, when you are practicing Mahamudra at this point, all the other virtuous activities should be minimized. So when your mind is so settled now and you're directly contemplating mind, you're directly seeing nature of mind and cultivating this nature of mind, habituating this nature of mind, and then their instructions say, then don't busy yourself with doing this ritual, that ritual, doing sang, doing confession, even that, counting mantras, all of that. They say, lay all that aside and focus on habituating nature of mind. So there are instructions given like that, even within the Dapokagyu, we have advice like that. But here, I think, how then do we reconcile with this statement? It is to say that this statement is saying, you need to understand that in advising you, that now that you have reached the point in your training where you are habituating the nature of your mind, since you have already recognized the nature of your mind based on your guru's instructions, now you're habituating nature of mind, then you should exclusively focus on cultivating or habituating nature of mind. That even means, like you're not spending time chit-chatting with friends, going shopping, watching Netflix, spending a lot of hours cooking. All your activities have been minimized so that you are primarily habituating the nature of mind. So it's saying that with regards to that, you can put aside, all the other like spiritual or religious practices that you used to do, not because you think, so this is where it's important, not because you think that they are ultimately in any way interfering with Mahamudra, but more based on right now, at this point in my training, in my process, and especially my guru has already said, right now, you can lay aside these other things because you're liable to get distracted if you go engage in those things. So don't stop doing those things because you think that, that on the ultimate level, doing those things will destroy your Mahamudra state, your Mahamudra realization. No, it cannot be destroyed that way. It cannot be harmed that way. Yeah? So 6:15, when the auspicious circumstances between guru and disciple are completely gathered and one has properly understood the pith instructions, one should rest single-pointedly on their meaning in meditative equipoise or meditation. So this auspicious circumstances between the guru and disciple is guru having realization, disciple having faith, guru having wisdom, disciple having merit. When these two meet, then the guru is able to guide student, disciple into realizing nature of mind. Once that has occurred, and you have understood the further instructions, then you should allow mind do whatever you need to do. But fundamentally, your practice at this point is to allow mind to settle into this meditative equipoise, this even mind. From this, it is certain that all qualities arise, such as equality toward the 8 worldly concerns. You naturally have no interest in the 8 worldly concerns now. That is, attachment to friends and aversion to enemies, this all dissolves, and so on during post-meditation, and authentic loving compassion for others, again, will naturally arise. So sometimes this can feel like chicken or egg, you're like, wait. You say that once we dispel this confusion, the mind settles, compassion naturally arises. Yeah? Attachment to friends, aversion to enemies naturally dissolve. It sounds like you're saying this will only happen when you are Buddha. Then you say, well, so how do I become a Buddha? Then we say, oh, you become a Buddha by making a determination not to be affected by the 8 winds. You become a Buddha by cultivating, developing, generating compassion step by step. First, see your own suffering. First, see how you don't like suffering. Then also see how others are suffering. And understand how others also don't want suffering. Now, all the steps in cultivating compassion. So, in fact, yes, this is back to like the last quote, right? In some ways, in a linear way, we're saying the first 5 paramita leads to the 6th paramita. But at the same time, you can also see how when paramita of wisdom, the 6th paramita, begins to grow and develop, then the other 5 paramitas get perfected naturally. So it's both a way to get somewhere. And when you get somewhere, you also realize that where you're getting to gives rise to these ways to get there. Sort of, you could say the chicken and the egg. It's both directions. You cultivate maybe artificial compassion now in order to awaken true, genuine, innate compassion. You cultivate, you make a determination and say, I'm not going to be affected so easily by these 8 worldly concerns. I'm not going to run around in terror when I see pain, loss, infamy, defame, and criticism. I'm not going to run away like a headless chicken. I'm also going to make a determination not to chase pleasure, gain, praise, and fame. You do that. You make the determination. You resist. As you do more and more of that, then when you have realization, then it leads to realization of mind through the guidance of the Guru. Then when we reach, reach meaning, not like completely reach. Reach can also mean just having a glimpse of it. Now once you have a glimpse, even if it is just a glimpse, a brief glimpse, right? Because you have tasted, in a way, you have tasted the result. That imprint is so strong. Now you habituate that. You're like, it's like that. It's like that. You habituate. Then as you habituate more, 8 worldly concerns disappear. Attachment to friends, aversion to enemies disappear. Authentic loving compassion for others naturally arises. So he quotes Son Shantideva. Shantideva says, understanding that calm abiding, fully endowed with insight, fully overcomes mental afflictions, one should first make an effort in calm abiding. This is accomplished by those who truly enjoy unattachment to the world. And furthermore, Nagarjuna said, when there is no discriminative wisdom, then there is no concentration. When there's no concentration, there's also no discriminative wisdom. And no samadhi, no prajna. No prajna, no samadhi. Whoever has these two, please make sure to cross over the ocean of existence, the ocean of samsara, like the water in the cow's hoof print. Like water that is in a cow's hoof print, easily you can cross that water. And so he says, the ocean of samsara, when you have these two, this concentration and discriminative wisdom, then you can cross. It's no longer feeling like you're crossing an ocean. It's just like crossing the water of a cow's hoof print. So this is 5:15. So we will stop here today. do dedication. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers, and may all mothers sentient beings limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm, and those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi by the power of this vast word of virtue. May we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflicted thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay, bye-bye.